Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a time-lapse video using Magic Lantern on your Canon DSLR. And if you don't know what a time-lapse is, this is what it looks like. Alright, so let's just jump in straight away. So first of all, just turn on your camera and go to the Magic Lantern settings by pressing the trash button. Now go to the 5th tab, which should be the shoot tab, and go down to intervalometer and turn it on. So what does this intervalometer do? It's basically a timer for taking continuous photos. So it constantly takes a picture after a certain amount of interval. Therefore, intervalometer. Open up the settings on the intervalometer by pressing Q. Now there's 5 settings you can change. First setting is take a pic every. This is how often the camera takes a picture. So for example, if you set this to 5 seconds, every 5 seconds the camera's going to take 1 picture. If you set this to 10 seconds, then every 10 seconds the camera's going to take 1 picture. It's fairly self-explanatory. The scale goes from take pics like crazy all the way up to take pics every 8 hours, so there's a lot of flexibility. Now setting this to a low number like 3 seconds is going to give you a pretty slow looking time lapse. If you want to show time moving really fast, use a higher interval. For example, if you want to show clouds moving fast, use a higher interval to achieve that fast effect you want. But consider how long you're going to be taking the time lapse for. If you're shooting a project at 24 frames per second and you're shooting a picture every 30 seconds, that means you'll be taking 2 pictures per minute. That means 12 minutes would give you 1 second worth of time lapse. And waiting 1 hour would only give you 5 seconds. So if you don't plan to sit by your camera all day, I suggest you turn down the interval, or if you don't care, you're a rich guy, just leave your camera outside, hope nobody steals it. Basically, pick an appropriate interval according to how much time you have and are willing to spend, so you won't end up sitting there for 5 hours just to end up with 3 seconds of a time-lapse video, which has happened to me before. The second setting is start trigger. Now this is how you want to trigger the time-lapse. If you want to start the time-lapse after you leave the menu or after you take a picture, it doesn't matter. I usually set this to half shutter, but really this setting just depends on you. It doesn't affect the time-lapse at all. Next is start after. This is the amount of time before it starts to take the time-lapse. So basically you trigger it, it's going to wait a certain time, and then it will start taking photos. I set this at 10 seconds so I can move back from the camera before it starts taking pictures, but you of course can set it to whatever you want. Once again, it doesn't really affect the time lapse, it's just based on personal preferences. After that is stop after. This is when you want the camera to stop taking pictures. You can set this at 100 shots or 5,000 shots. Now I like to leave it disabled because I like to stop it manually when I want. You can use this option if you want to save space on your card, and you can also use it if you know exactly when you want the camera to stop taking pictures, so you don't have to keep constantly looking at it. Lastly, there's manual focus ramp, which is a really cool setting where you can have an automatic lens that focuses on the background and ramp focuses to the foreground as the time lapse progresses, which I think is a really cool idea, but the setting doesn't really work for me. I don't know what's wrong with it. You know, Magic Lantern is a bit buggy sometimes, and in this case it doesn't work for me. So, you know, who knows, try it out on your camera, hopefully it works. Now, other than that, you're gonna have to think about what format of picture you're gonna be shooting. Are you gonna be shooting S1, S2, RAW? And keep in mind, if you're shooting RAW, you're not only gonna need a lot of space, you're also gonna need a lot of horsepower when editing, because you're essentially editing a RAW video. If you don't have the space and power to shoot RAW, I recommend you shoot S1. It's bigger than a 1080p composition, so you can scale it down to get a much finer detailed image. But if you can shoot RAW, it does make for some very high quality time lapses. Now set your camera settings, set your aperture, shutter speed, white balance, all that good stuff, but keep in mind this has to be in manual mode. Also make sure to compensate for the time of day you're shooting. For example, if you're shooting a sunset, make sure that when the sun sets, your picture won't be underexposed or overexposed. A common problem when taking time-lapse videos is flicker. Now flicker happens because of automatic lenses and automatic settings, so set everything to manual. Now if your camera is on automatic, then every time it takes a picture, it's going to be recalculating all the settings to adjust for proper exposure. Now the problem is real life has so many variables that each time the camera is taking a picture, the settings are slightly different. So some are going to be darker, some are going to be brighter, and this makes flicker. To avoid automatic settings, just turn your camera to M mode or manual mode and set everything that's automatic to manual. So there's a trick to turning your automatic lens into a manual lens. First pick the aperture you'd like and then press the depth of field preview button under the camera's lens, and then slowly release the lens and turn it until it's disconnected from the connectors. Now you should see the aperture sign turn to f00. Don't worry, your camera is not broken. This simply means the camera cannot connect with the lens, which in this case is a good thing. Now set your camera on a tripod and trigger that time lapse. Or if you have an automatic slider, you can use that timer to move the camera while it's doing the time lapse, and that way you can make a moving time lapse, otherwise known as a hyperlapse. Just sit back and enjoy as Magic Lantern does all the work. Now here's some time lapses that I recorded earlier. I will be posting a video soon about how to take all those photos taken by Magic Lantern into After Effects and turn it into the time-lapse video like you just saw before. So subscribe to be notified when I upload that. But until next time, stay classy.